Hey folks, welcome back to the Edupedia world, and I am Abhinay Gupta. And today again we are continuing with the topic the audit and auditors. So remember what the audit and auditors are? Yeah, we covered it in detail in the previous lecture, right? Right. So today we'll move on to the next. We have already understood the appointment of an auditor as per section 139 subsection 1 that the auditor needs to be appointed in an AGM and will continue up to next 5 consecutive AGMs, right? So the new auditor will be appointed in the 6th AGM. Now today we'll move on to the next topic, which will be the Rule 3, right? And what does the Rule 3 say? The Rule 3 is basically the procedure of selection of those auditors in that AGM, right? So in the previous lecture where we understood that first AGM and then the 6th AGM ratification, and whenever the auditor is not ratified, the next auditor is appointed by the director and stuff. So now we need to understand that in that AGM what happens, right? How does the company actually go ahead to select an auditor? That means we are talking about the internal procedures of the company. Okay. So if you understand, so Rule 3 of the company's Audit and Auditor Rule 2014 deals with this entire procedure. You always know, right, that if there is an act, like if there was an act, Companies Act 1956, we had the rules, the company's rules on 1957. Because once the act is defined, an act is enacted, the consecutive year you have the rules framing that act, right, supporting those acts. So over here you have the rule of Companies Rule 2014. So Rule 3 of the Companies Audit and Auditors Rule 2014 will deal with the entire procedure, right? Got the concept of the rule? So qualification and experience is evaluated by the board or the audit committee. So we have already dealt, right, in our other chapters about when is an audit committee formed in a company and what are the roles of the audit committee. That is a lecture, or that is a topic that has already been dealt in the previous lectures, right? So we will not get into the technicalities of an audit committee, but we'll understand that the board, right, or the audit committee, whosoever, if audit committee is present, it's the audit committee. If the audit committee is not present, it's the board. So whosoever is present, they will go ahead, right? So whosoever is present, if the company has an audit committee, then the audit committee initiates the procedure of selecting the auditor, right? And then it passes on to the board and then to the members. And if there is no audit committee, the board of directors themselves take the procedure ahead, right? But when we talk about the procedure, right, so first they evaluate the qualifications and the experience both of the auditor. So whether the auditor is qualified to be an auditor as per the rules and as per the act, right? And what experience do they carry? Like if we have a listed company, a big company, they generally do not give the audit to a very fresh new client, new auditor, right? If there's a firm of 5 auditors, 5 chartered accountants, I would say combined, they have just qualified and they opened up a firm. Do you think a good listed client will give them the audit in the initial phase? Right? The answer is no. So qualification and experience is something that has to be evaluated by the board or the audit committee for that purpose, right? And other thing is that when they are considering their qualification and experience, so qualification is one thing, whether they are qualified as per the law. There are certain degrees, certain things that are required to be fulfilled. It's okay. Experience as per their tenure. But there's one more thing that they need to evaluate, which is they need to see if there is any case of misconduct, which is very specifically a professional misconduct, right? So when you go through your audit paper, right, so in the audit you have a chapter called professional ethics. So in professional ethics we talk about the professional misconducts as well. Either you go by the schedule 1, schedule 2, part 1 2 3, or part 1 2 3 4, whatever it is, right? So there you talk about the professional misconduct. So the board or the audit committee, they need to check if any order has been passed. Order for what? Passed against the auditor for any professional misconduct, right? And when we say the auditor, is not the auditor, right? When you are writing the examination, in this, see, what you have to be very careful in examination also is the choice of right words, the choice of the correct words. Over here, don't go by the flow and say, yeah, they'll check the qualification or they'll check whether there is an order passed against the auditor. No. Why not? Is because the person is not yet your auditor. Right? So you will write whether the order of professional misconduct is passed against the proposed auditor. So very small things, right? Generally, it doesn't even matter. I won't say they'll deduct your marks for that, but when you portray it in this format, right, you create a good impression on the person who is checking the paper. They'll understand that you know the totality, that you know it in the entirety. So your choice of words have to be very specific, right? Now, if they do not find any order that has been passed, but the auditor or the proposed auditor is still under consideration for some review in the court, right? That means there is some certain proceedings that are pending for order against the proposed auditor. So in any of those two scenarios, they will not go ahead with that auditor. When I say not, it's not compulsory that they will definitely not. They'll have to pay due regard. If it's a very minute professional misconduct that doesn't even impact their audit, they may still consider, right? But they have to see what kind and what level of professional misconduct are they considering, right? And what does the law say about that? The only thing you need to understand is they'll have to give due respect and due concern to the proceedings that are pending in the court as well, right? And apart from that, if the board of directors or the audit committee, they require any further information from the proposed auditor so as to verify whatever they want, right? They can ask for the same. So unless and until they're completely satisfied as to what is going on and what is the outcome, and whether or not the proposed auditor is supposed to be finalized as an auditor, they can continue with their investigation, I would say, or their evaluation. That would be the correct word, right? So they evaluate the auditor. Now, in the process of evaluation, there is a procedure, right? The audit committee will decide something, pass on to the board, then to the members, and all those things goes on. So let us understand in detail, right, about the cases. In what circumstance and what case, how does the proposed auditor be appointed as a auditor of the company, right? So there's a flowchart for you in that case. So audit committee recommendation. So there's an audit committee, if there is an audit committee, right? So what will the audit committee do is that audit committee will evaluate on the same basis that we have discussed, on the qualification, on the experience, on seeing if there is any professional misconduct or not, and then they will recommend the name of the proposed auditor to the board of director, right? Now it's on the board of director that they may re-evaluate the same and check whether the recommendation of audit committee is viable or whether it is eligible to be accepted or not, right? And then accordingly they'll take two decisions. If it's a yes, they forward it to the members, and then the members in the AGM will elect or will not elect that proposed auditor as the auditor of the company, right? But if the board itself says that no, either the qualification experience is not very accurate or the kind of misconduct you're talking about will not go by it, right? We don't allow anybody with such a misconduct to go ahead with us as an auditor. So the board denies. And when the board denies, the board refers it back to the audit committee. That okay, it's your turn again, check and let me know whom next to qualify forward. The audit committee again goes back to the same thing, right? If there are certain issues that the board has come up with, they either resolve it, right? And if they think that okay, it has been resolved and it is very good to go ahead, then they resolve and put it forward to the board again. And again the board will check, and if the board finds it is resolved, it goes to the members or it comes back. So, and the audit committee does not necessarily need to resolve the issue. They can also swap, right? That if they think that okay, this is not the auditor, what if they consider that yes, what the board has said is correct. So if the board says no, this is the problem with them, and the audit committee also agrees that yeah, this is the problem, so they anyways discard that proposed auditor, right? And then the audit committee recommends a new name to the board, and the entire process continues. But if the audit committee does not agree with the board of director, they refer it back to the board of director, right? But they cannot go ahead to the members directly. But when they refer it back with a reason. If again the board accepts, it's well and good. If no, then it is denied. And if the board does not consider the recommendation of the audit committee to be appropriate, may it be in the first moment, may it be in the second turn, may it be in the third turn, whatever, at any point of time, if the board takes a decision that no, the audit committee is not able to provide us with the correct set of auditors, then the board may go ahead to appoint auditors all by themselves, right? As the board would have done if there was no audit committee at all. Getting the point? So if the company does not have an audit committee, right, the board acts on the same. So similarly, the board will act assuming there is no audit committee. But that is only in the case if the audit committee's recommendation is not acceptable by the board of directors, right? So do you get the entire scenario? So this is how an auditor is appointed. There will be a lot of proposed auditor who will go through that scanning process. So there's shortlist. Okay, qualification wise we take you, experience wise we take you. Oh, two of you, please set back. Why? Because you have some professional misconduct attached. Now the remaining, they send the recommendation to the board, and the board chooses and finalizes one for the members, and members they elect it, right? And then that is how an auditor is elected in the annual general meeting. So before the annual general meeting actually occurs, these entire procedures they take place, right? And keep it handy for the members, and then the auditor continues for the tenure of next 5 years. Okay with it? That is all about the rule 3 of your company's audit and auditor rule 2014, right? Next we'll go ahead with the reappointment of the retiring auditor and the rotation of auditors, right? That will basically be section 139 subsection 9 and 10 and section 139 subsection 2 and 4, right? So we'll not keep the lectures very lengthy, we'll keep it short. So the next topic will be covered in the next lecture. So until then, this is Abhinav Gupta signing off. Thank you and bye-bye.